My best friend confessed his love for my fiancée, then showed me fake screenshots of her saying she didn't love me to break us up, but when I called him out he admitted he made everything up. I am Milton, 28M, and I need advice about something that happened with my fiancée Susan, 27F, and my best friend Harvey, 29M. This situation has completely turned my world upside down and I don't know what to think anymore. I met Susan 3 years ago at a coffee shop near my office. She was reading a book I recognized and we started talking about it. That conversation lasted 4 hours. We exchanged numbers and went on our first date the following weekend. Susan works as a graphic designer and has this incredible way of seeing beauty in everything around her. She sketches random things when we're out together, the way light hits a building, an interesting face in a crowd, even me when I'm not paying attention. Harvey has been my best friend since college. We were roommates for 2 years and he helped me through some really tough times when my dad got sick during our junior year. Harvey stayed up with me in the hospital waiting room for 3 straight nights when Dad had his surgery. He's the kind of person who shows up with pizza when you're having a bad day and never expects anything in return. When I started dating Susan, Harvey was genuinely excited for me. He said he had never seen me smile so much. The 3 of us became a tight group. Harvey would join us for movie nights, barbecues, and weekend trips. Susan liked him immediately and they bonded over their shared love of terrible horror movies. Harvey is single and has been for about 2 years since his last relationship ended. He never seemed bothered by being the third wheel and often joked that he was living vicariously through our relationship. Last year, I proposed to Susan during a weekend camping trip. Harvey helped me plan the whole thing. He drove out to the campsite earlier that day to set up fairy lights around the area where I was going to propose. He even brought a cooler full of Susan's favorite wine and took photos of the proposal from a distance. Susan said yes and we set our wedding date for this coming October. Wedding planning has been mostly smooth. Susan handles the creative aspects while I focus on the logistics and budget. We decided on a small ceremony with about 80 guests at a vineyard outside the city. Harvey is my best man and has been helping with bachelor party planning and other wedding tasks. About 6 weeks ago, things started to change. Susan began working longer hours on a big project for a major client. She would come home exhausted and fall asleep on the couch while we were watching TV. Our weekly date nights became less frequent because she was putting in weekend hours. I understood this was temporary and that the project would be finished by August. During this busy period, Harvey started reaching out more often. He would text me during the day to check how I was doing and suggest grabbing dinner when Susan was working late. I appreciated having someone to talk to during this stressful time. Harvey listened when I mentioned that Susan seemed distant and assured me this was normal pre-wedding pressure combined with work stress. 3 weeks ago, Harvey invited me to his apartment for what he called an important conversation. When I arrived, he seemed nervous and kept pacing around his living room. He said he had been thinking about our friendship and wanted to make sure I knew how much it meant to him. Then he told me something that made my stomach drop. Harvey said he had feelings for Susan. He explained that these feelings developed gradually over the past year but he had tried to ignore them. He claimed he was telling me because he respected our friendship too much to keep it secret. Harvey insisted he would never act on these feelings and that he wanted to step back from spending time with us as a couple. I left his apartment without saying much. I needed time to process what he had told me. When I got home, Susan was already asleep. I sat in our kitchen until 3 a.m. trying to figure out what this meant for our friendship and our wedding. The next morning, I told Susan about Harvey's confession. She was surprised but not as upset as I expected. Susan said she had noticed Harvey seemed to pay extra attention to her lately but thought she was imagining things. We agreed that Harvey had done the right thing by being honest and that we should give him some space to work through his feelings. I texted Harvey that we needed a break from hanging out and that I would find a different best man for the wedding. He responded that he understood and apologized again for complicating things. For 2 weeks, I didn't hear from Harvey. Susan and I started spending more time together as her work project wrapped up. Things between us felt normal again. We went back to our weekly date nights and started finalizing wedding details. I asked my brother Kevin to be my best man instead. Last Saturday morning, Susan went to her sister's house to work on wedding favors. I was home alone organizing our closet when I received a text from Harvey. The message said he needed to tell me something urgent about Susan and asked if he could come over. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Harvey arrived within 20 minutes looking like he hadn't slept in days. He sat on our couch and said he had discovered something about Susan that I needed to know before the wedding. Harvey pulled out his phone and showed me a series of text messages. According to the screenshots, these were conversations between Susan and her sister Kylie, 25F, from the past few weeks. The messages showed Susan expressing doubts about our relationship and our upcoming marriage. In the messages, Susan supposedly told Kylie that she wasn't sure if she loved me the way she should love someone she was about to marry. She allegedly said I was safe and reliable but that she didn't feel the passionate love she had expected to feel. The worst message claimed that Susan was only going through with a wedding because she didn't want to hurt me and because I would be a good provider and father. Reading these messages felt like being punched in the stomach. They explained everything: the distance, the exhaustion, the lack of physical affection. Harvey sat next to me while I read through them twice. He said he had obtained these messages from Kylie, who was concerned about Susan's doubts but didn't know how to approach me directly. Harvey suggested I confront Susan immediately. He offered to stay while I called her and to help me cancel the wedding if needed. He kept emphasizing that I deserved someone who was completely sure about marrying me. Something about Harvey's behavior struck me as odd. He seemed too prepared, too eager to help me end my relationship. I told him I needed time to think and asked him to leave. Harvey seemed reluctant to go but eventually agreed to give me space. After he left, I stared at the screenshots on my phone for another hour. The messages felt both devastating and somehow wrong. Susan's writing style in the text seemed different from her usual texting patterns. She typically uses full sentences and proper punctuation, but these messages were full of abbreviations and informal language. I decided to call Kylie directly. When she answered, I asked if she had been worried about Susan's feelings regarding our wedding. Kylie sounded confused and said Susan had been nothing but excited about getting married. She mentioned that Susan had been stressed about work but that she talked about our wedding plans constantly. Kylie had no idea what I was talking about when I asked about concerns she might have shared with Harvey. She said she had only met Harvey a few times and had never had a private conversation with him about Susan or our relationship. I hung up and immediately called Harvey. When he answered, I told him that Kylie denied having any concerns about Susan or sharing messages with him. Harvey's story started to change. First he said maybe Kylie was protecting Susan. Then he claimed he might have misunderstood how he obtained the messages. Finally, I asked Harvey directly if he had created fake messages. There was a long silence before he started crying and admitted that he had made them up. He said he was desperate to stop me from making what he thought was a mistake. Harvey claimed he truly believed Susan didn't love me enough and that he was trying to save me from an unhappy marriage. I hung up on him and blocked his number immediately. Then I called Susan and asked her to come home right away. When Susan arrived, I told her everything that had happened. I showed her the fake messages and explained Harvey's confession about his feelings and his attempt to break us up. Susan's face went through several expressions: confusion, hurt, and finally anger. Susan said she had never written anything like those messages to anyone. She was furious that Harvey had tried to manipulate both of us and hurt that someone she considered a friend would do something so destructive. We spent the rest of the day talking about our relationship and our upcoming wedding. I realized that the distance I had felt from Susan was mostly in my head, amplified by Harvey's planted doubts. Susan confirmed that her work stress and long hours had been the main factors affecting our time together, not any doubts about our relationship. We decided to continue with our wedding plans as scheduled. Kevin will remain as my best man and we've increased security at our venue in case Harvey tries to cause problems on our wedding day. The betrayal from someone I trusted completely has been difficult to process. Harvey was the person I called when I needed advice or support. He was supposed to stand beside me at my wedding. Instead, he tried to destroy my relationship with elaborate lies. I keep thinking about all the times Harvey encouraged my doubts about Susan during her busy work period. He was actively undermining my confidence in our relationship while pretending to be supportive. The manipulation was so subtle and calculated that I almost fell for it completely. Susan has been incredibly understanding about the whole situation. She hasn't blamed me for believing the fake messages initially or for bringing Harvey into our lives. Instead, she's focused on moving forward with our wedding and our life together. We've decided not to tell our families about Harvey's scheme. We don't want this drama to overshadow our wedding celebration. Most people will simply think Harvey stepped down as best man due to scheduling conflicts. I'm sharing this story because I can't believe someone would go to such lengths to sabotage a relationship. Has anyone else experienced something like this? How do you move forward when someone you trusted completely betrays you in such a calculated way? Update 1: I posted a few weeks ago about my best friend Harvey creating fake text messages to try to break up me and my fiancée Susan before our wedding. A lot of people asked for updates, so here's what has happened since then. Our wedding went ahead as planned last weekend. It was a beautiful day and everything went smoothly. Kevin did an excellent job as best man and gave a speech that had everyone laughing and crying. Susan looked incredible and the ceremony was everything we had hoped for. Harvey did not show up or try to contact us on our wedding day. I had worried he might cause some kind of scene, but he stayed away completely. Several of our mutual friends asked where he was, and we just said he had a family emergency and couldn't make it. The honeymoon was amazing. We went to Costa Rica for 10 days and barely thought about Harvey or any of the drama. Being away from everything helped us focus on each other and our new marriage. Susan learned to surf and I managed not to get stung by anything dangerous in the jungle. When we got back home, we found that Harvey had been reaching out to our mutual friends. He had told at least 3 people that Susan and I had kicked him out of the wedding party because Susan didn't like him. He made it sound like she was controlling and jealous of our friendship. Our friend Mike called me directly to ask what really happened. Mike has known both Harvey and me since college and was confused by Harvey's version of events. I decided to tell Mike the truth about the fake messages and Harvey's confession of feelings for Susan. Mike was shocked and said Harvey's behavior explained some things that hadn't made sense before. Apparently, Harvey had been making subtle negative comments about Susan to their mutual friends for months. He would say things like Susan seemed high maintenance or that she was changing me. Mike had brushed these comments off as typical guy talk, but now they seemed more sinister. Mike asked if he could share this information with our other friends, and I agreed. I was tired of Harvey controlling the narrative and making Susan look bad. Within a few days, most of our friend group knew what Harvey had really done. The response was overwhelmingly supportive of us. Several people reached out to apologize for not seeing Harvey's manipulation earlier. Our friend David said Harvey had tried to convince him that I was making a mistake marrying Susan just a few weeks before Harvey showed me the fake messages. Harvey apparently realized that people knew the truth because he started sending me long text messages from different phone numbers. He had clearly been drinking when he wrote most of them based on the spelling and rambling nature of the messages. In these texts, Harvey alternated between apologizing and blaming me for ruining his life. He said I had turned all our friends against him and destroyed his reputation. He claimed he had only been trying to protect me and that Susan would eventually prove him right by leaving me. Some of the messages were particularly nasty. Harvey wrote that Susan had probably been cheating during her busy work period and that I was too naive to see it. He said I would come crawling back to him when my marriage fell apart and that he wouldn't be there to help me. I screenshotted all these messages and blocked each new number as Harvey used them. Susan read them too and said they proved we had made the right decision to cut him out of our lives completely. The most disturbing part of Harvey's messages was how he talked about Susan. He wrote about watching her during our movie nights and thinking about what it would be like to be with her. He described specific outfits she had worn and how they had affected him. It was clear that his feelings for Susan had been much more intense and long-standing than he had initially admitted. Harvey also revealed that he had been planning to break us up for months before he actually tried it. He had researched ways to create fake text message screenshots and had been studying Susan's texting patterns to make the fake messages more believable. The whole thing was much more premeditated than I had originally thought. Reading about the extent of Harvey's obsession made me realize how dangerous the situation could have been. If I had believed the fake messages and broken up with Susan, Harvey was clearly prepared to swoop in and try to comfort her. He had probably planned to position himself as the friend who had always been there for her. Our friend group has completely ostracized Harvey. He was removed from group chats and is no longer invited to social gatherings. Several people have told him directly that they want nothing to do with him after what he did to us. Harvey's isolation seems to have made his behavior worse. According to Mike, Harvey has been posting cryptic messages on social media about fake friends and people who abandon you when you need them most. He's also been liking old photos of Susan on Instagram, which she finds creepy and has blocked him for. Last week, Harvey showed up at Susan's workplace. He waited in the parking lot until she came out for lunch and tried to approach her. Susan saw him coming and went back inside immediately. Her co-workers called building security and Harvey was escorted off the property. Susan's boss took the incident seriously and filed a report with their security company. They've added Harvey's photo to their do not admit list and installed additional cameras in the parking area. Susan now leaves through a different exit and varies her lunch timing. The workplace incident really shook both of us. Up until that point, I had thought Harvey was just having a hard time accepting that he had destroyed our friendship. But showing up at Susan's job crossed a line into stalking behavior. We've started documenting everything Harvey does in case we need to pursue legal action. We have screenshots of all his messages, photos of him near our apartment building that our neighbor took, and the security report from Susan's workplace. Our families know about the situation now. We told them after the workplace incident because we wanted them to be aware in case Harvey tried to contact them or show up at family events. Both sets of parents were supportive and offered to help however they could. Susan's dad was particularly angry and wanted to confront Harvey directly. We convinced him that engaging with Harvey would only make things worse and potentially escalate the situation. Instead, we've asked our families to document any contact from Harvey and to call us immediately if he shows up anywhere. The hardest part of this whole situation has been losing someone I thought was my best friend. I keep thinking about all the good times we had and wondering if any of it was real. Did Harvey always have these feelings for Susan? Was he always capable of this kind of manipulation? Susan has been incredibly strong through all of this. She refuses to let Harvey's behavior affect our new marriage or make her feel unsafe in her own life. She started taking a self-defense class and carries pepper spray, but she won't let him control her daily routine. We're hoping that Harvey will eventually move on and leave us alone. Several of our friends think he needs professional help, but that's not our responsibility. Our focus is on protecting ourselves and building our life together as a married couple. I'll update again if anything significant happens, but hopefully Harvey will realize that his behavior is only making things worse for him and will find a way to move forward with his own life. Update 2: It's been about 6 weeks since my last update, and unfortunately, the situation with Harvey has gotten much worse before it started to get better. About a month ago, Susan noticed that someone had been going through our mail. We live in an apartment complex with mailboxes in the lobby, and several pieces of mail had clearly been opened and resealed. Our bank statements, credit card bills, and even wedding thank you cards from guests had been tampered with. We reported this to our apartment management and the postal service. The management agreed to install a camera pointed at the mailboxes, and we switched to a P.O. box for all important mail. Within a week, the camera caught Harvey on video opening our mailbox with what appeared to be a master key. The apartment management called the police immediately. When they reviewed the footage, they found Harvey had been accessing our mail for at least 2 weeks. He would come late at night or early in the morning when the lobby was empty and spend several minutes going through our mailbox. Police arrested Harvey at his apartment the next day. They found several pieces of our mail in his possession, including bank statements and a letter from our insurance company about adding Susan to my health plan. Harvey had been using the information to try to figure out our financial situation and daily routines. During the arrest, police also found a notebook where Harvey had been tracking our movements. He had written down times when we left for work, when we came home, and when we went grocery shopping. He had noted which restaurants we visited and how long we typically stayed. The notebook went back almost 2 months. Harvey was charged with mail theft and stalking. The prosecutor said they had enough evidence for a strong case, especially with the video footage and the notebook documenting his surveillance of us. Harvey's lawyer negotiated a plea deal where he would serve 6 months in jail and 5 years of probation with a restraining order. We thought this would be the end of it, but we were wrong. While Harvey was in jail awaiting sentencing, his mother Linda contacted Susan's parents. Linda claimed that Harvey was the victim of a conspiracy and that Susan had seduced him and then turned him against me. She said Susan was manipulating the situation to make Harvey look bad and destroy his life. Linda also accused Susan of leading Harvey on during our relationship. She claimed Susan had been flirting with Harvey and giving him mixed signals that made him think she was interested in him. According to Linda, Harvey was only trying to protect me from Susan's manipulative behavior. Susan's parents were polite but firm in telling Linda that she was completely wrong about Susan and the situation. They explained that Harvey had created fake messages and stalked us, which led to his arrest. Linda refused to believe any of this and hung up on them. A few days later, Linda showed up at Susan's sister Kylie's house. Kylie wasn't home, but her roommate answered the door. Linda demanded to speak with Kylie about the lies her sister was telling about Harvey. When the roommate said Kylie wasn't available, Linda became aggressive and started yelling about Susan destroying an innocent man's life. The roommate called Kylie, who came home immediately and called the police. By the time officers arrived, Linda had left, but she had left several handwritten letters under Kylie's door. The letters contained accusations against Susan and threats to expose what Linda called the truth about Susan's character. Kylie brought the letters to us, and we added them to our documentation file. The letters were filled with paranoid theories about Susan's motivations and included some personal information about our relationship that Harvey must have shared with his mother. It was clear that Linda was as unstable as her son. We informed the prosecutor about Linda's harassment of our family members. They said they would include this information in Harvey's case and warned Linda to stay away from us and our families. The prosecutor also mentioned that Harvey's behavior was escalating even from jail, which could affect his sentencing. Harvey had been making phone calls from jail to mutual friends, trying to convince them that he was being framed. He told our friend Mike that I had planted evidence in his apartment and that the police were corrupt. He claimed the video footage of him at our mailboxes was doctored and that someone was impersonating him. Mike recorded one of these phone calls and brought it to us. In the recording, Harvey sounded completely detached from reality. He talked about Susan like she was some kind of criminal mastermind who had orchestrated his downfall. He claimed she had been planning to destroy him from the moment we started dating. The most disturbing part of the call was when Harvey talked about what he would do when he got out of jail. He said he had learned from his mistakes and would be more careful next time. He talked about watching us from a distance and waiting for the right opportunity to prove that Susan was dangerous. We immediately took this recording to the police and the prosecutor. They said it demonstrated that Harvey remained a threat and would likely be used to argue for a longer sentence. The prosecutor also filed for an extension of the restraining order to cover the entire 5-year probation period. During this time, we also discovered that Harvey had been creating fake social media accounts to monitor our activity online. Susan found several Instagram accounts that had been following her for months with generic names and no profile pictures. When she looked at the viewing history of her Instagram stories, these fake accounts appeared regularly. We reported these accounts to Instagram and most were removed within a few days. We also made all of our social media accounts private and removed any posts that showed our location or daily routines. It was disturbing to realize that Harvey had been digitally stalking us for so long without us noticing. The violation of privacy felt almost worse than the fake messages. Harvey had been watching our lives unfold online and using that information to plan his manipulation. He had probably known about Susan's work stress and used it to time his fake message scheme perfectly. Harvey's sentencing hearing was held 3 weeks ago. We were allowed to give victim impact statements, and both Susan and I spoke about how his behavior had affected our lives. Susan talked about feeling unsafe in her own home and workplace. I described the betrayal of losing someone I had trusted completely. The judge sentenced Harvey to 8 months in jail instead of 6, citing the ongoing harassment by his family and his continued threats from jail. Harvey will also have to complete psychological counseling as part of his probation and will be required to wear a GPS monitor for the first year after his release. During the sentencing hearing, Harvey's lawyer tried to argue that Harvey was suffering from mental health issues that explained his behavior. While this might be true, the judge made it clear that mental health problems don't excuse stalking and harassment. Harvey will be released in about 4 months, and we're already preparing for that possibility. We've looked into moving to a different apartment complex and Susan is considering changing jobs to a company with better security. We've also started attending a support group for stalking victims. The support group has been helpful in understanding that Harvey's behavior follows a pattern common to many stalkers. The escalation from manipulation to surveillance to direct harassment is typical, and the involvement of family members is also common. It's helped us realize that nothing we did caused Harvey's behavior and that we couldn't have prevented it. Our marriage has actually grown stronger through this ordeal. Going through something this difficult together has shown us that we can handle whatever life throws at us. We've learned to communicate better and to trust each other completely. The wedding money we didn't spend because of COVID restrictions has gone toward legal fees and security measures. It's not how we plan to use those savings, but we're grateful we had them available. We've also started a separate savings account for future security needs, just in case. Our friends and family have been incredibly supportive throughout this process. The friend group that initially seemed split about Harvey's behavior has completely rallied around us. Several people have offered to testify if needed and have helped us document Harvey's attempts to contact them. We're hoping that Harvey's time in jail and mandatory counseling will help him understand the severity of his actions. However, we're not counting on it and are prepared for the possibility that he will continue to be a threat when he's released. For now, we're focused on moving forward with our lives and not letting Harvey's obsession define our marriage. We're planning to buy a house next year and start a family. We refuse to let his behavior control our future plans. Update 3. This will be my final update on the situation with Harvey. It's been 4 months since my last post, and Harvey was released from jail 3 weeks ago. Before his release, we received notice from his probation officer that Harvey would be living with his mother Linda about 2 hours away from our city. His probation conditions require him to stay in that county and get permission before traveling anywhere else. He's also required to wear a GPS monitor and attend weekly counseling sessions. We used the months before his release to make some major changes to our lives. We moved out of our apartment into a small house in a different neighborhood. The house has a security system and we've installed cameras around the property. Our new address is unlisted and we've been careful not to post any photos that would reveal our location. Susan found a new job with a company that has excellent security protocols. Her new workplace requires key card access and has security guards in the lobby. More importantly, the job pays better and she likes the work more than her previous position. She says it feels like starting fresh without the weight of Harvey's harassment hanging over everything. We also adopted a dog from a local shelter. Rex is a German Shepherd mix who's naturally protective and alerts us whenever anyone approaches the house. He's been great company and makes us both feel safer, especially when one of us is home alone. The probation officer has been very professional and takes Harvey's conditions seriously. They told us that Harvey completed anger management classes while in jail but showed little insight into why his behavior was wrong. Harvey consistently blamed others for his situation and showed no genuine remorse for what he put us through. 2 weeks after Harvey's release, we received word that he had violated his probation. According to the probation officer, Harvey had been using library computers to create new social media accounts and attempt to contact our mutual friends. He was also caught in our county without permission when he was supposed to be at a counseling appointment. The probation violation resulted in Harvey spending another week in jail and having his probation conditions tightened. He's now required to report to his probation officer twice a week instead of once, and his internet access is being monitored. Any social media activity or attempts to contact us or our friends will result in additional jail time. Our friend Mike told us that Harvey had tried to friend him on Facebook using a fake name and profile. When Mike ignored the request, Harvey sent him a message claiming he just wanted to apologize and move on with his life. Mike reported this to both us and Harvey's probation officer immediately. We haven't heard directly from Harvey since his release, which we consider a good sign. However, his mother Linda has continued to be a problem. She's been posting on community Facebook pages claiming that her son was wrongfully convicted and that we ruined his life over a misunderstanding. Linda's posts include some details about our case that she shouldn't have access to, which makes us think Harvey is still sharing information with her despite his probation conditions. We've reported these posts to the local police and they've spoken with Linda about harassment. 3 weeks ago, Linda was arrested for drunk driving in our neighborhood at 2 a.m. She told police she was visiting a friend, but she couldn't provide a name or address when asked. We suspect she was driving around looking for our new house, though we can't prove it. Linda's arrest was a wake-up call for Harvey's father, who had been relatively quiet throughout this entire situation. He contacted us through our lawyer to apologize for his family's behavior and to assure us that he was getting Linda help for her drinking and would make sure she stayed away from us. Harvey's father also revealed that Harvey had been obsessed with Susan for much longer than we realized. He said Harvey had talked about Susan constantly after meeting her and had convinced himself that she was interested in him. The father admitted he should have recognized the signs and gotten Harvey help earlier. This information was both validating and disturbing. It confirmed that Harvey's behavior wasn't a sudden breakdown but a long-developing obsession that we couldn't have prevented. It also explained why his manipulation had been so calculated and persistent. Our life has settled into a new normal. We feel safer in our new house and neighborhood, and Susan loves her new job. We've made friends with our neighbors and feel like we're part of a real community for the first time. Rex has become the neighborhood favorite and everyone looks out for us. We still take precautions and probably always will. We check our security cameras regularly and vary our routines when possible. Susan carries pepper spray and we both have safety apps on our phones that can alert authorities if needed. These measures don't feel burdensome anymore, just smart. The experience has changed our perspective on friendship and trust. We're more careful about who we let into our lives and we pay attention to warning signs we might have ignored before. We've learned that someone's past good behavior doesn't guarantee their future actions. We've also learned that going through trauma together can actually strengthen a relationship. The situation with Harvey tested our marriage before it even really began, and we passed that test. We know we can handle difficult situations together and trust each other completely. Our families have been incredible throughout this ordeal. Both sets of parents have offered financial help, emotional support, and practical assistance with moving and security measures. Susan's sister Kylie has become one of our closest confidants and biggest supporters. We've been able to help other people going through similar situations through the stalking support group. It's been therapeutic to share our experience and help others understand that they're not alone. We've learned that unfortunately, situations like ours are more common than we thought. Harvey's probation will continue for 4 more years unless he violates it again. We hope he uses that time to get real help and to build a life that doesn't involve us in any way. We don't wish him harm, but we also don't want any contact with him ever again. We're planning to start a family next year and buy a bigger house in a few years. We're not going to let Harvey's actions control our future plans or make us live in fear. We've built a good life together and we're going to keep building it. This experience taught us that some people are capable of much more manipulation and harm than we ever imagined. But it also showed us that we have the strength to protect ourselves and each other. We came through this situation stronger and more united than before. For anyone dealing with a similar situation, document everything, trust your instincts, and don't hesitate to involve law enforcement when someone crosses the line. Take threats seriously even if they come from someone you trusted. And remember that their behavior is not your fault and not something you could have prevented. This will be my last update unless something major happens. We're ready to move forward with our lives and leave this chapter behind us. Thank you to everyone who offered support and advice during this difficult time. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. I refused to let my drug addict sister move in with us and she showed up high at our house. 6 months later, she's clean and wants to see the kids, but I'm terrified of letting her back into our lives. I, 29F, am facing a difficult situation with my older sister Emma, 33F, and could really use some advice. Our childhood was far from ideal. We grew up in a small, run-down house on the outskirts of a dying industrial town. Our parents struggled with addiction for as long as I can remember. Dad would disappear for days on end, leaving us with Mom who was barely functional most of the time. Emma practically raised me. She'd wake me up for school, pack my lunches, when we had food, and made sure I did my homework. I remember one winter when I was about 8, our heat got shut off. Emma, only 12 herself, figured out how to light the gas stove safely so we could stay warm. She was my protector, my hero. But as we got older, things got harder. Emma started hanging out with a rough crowd in high school. I think she was just looking for an escape from our home life. By 15, she was using drugs regularly. At first, it was just weed, but it escalated quickly to harder stuff. I covered for her at first, lying to our parents about where she was. I thought I was helping, but looking back, I was just enabling her. There was one night when I was 14 that I'll never forget. Emma was supposed to pick me up from a school dance, but she never showed. I waited for hours in the cold before walking the 5 miles home alone. I found her passed out on the bathroom floor, needle still in her arm. I was terrified she was dead. That was the first time I realized how bad things had gotten. Despite everything, I managed to do well in school. It was my escape, my ticket out of that life. When I was 17, I got a scholarship to a college in the city, 3 hours away. It was my chance to break free, but I felt so guilty about leaving Emma behind. She told me to go, promised she'd get clean. I left, hoping things would get better. College was a culture shock. I was surrounded by people who'd never known real hunger or fear. But I adapted. I threw myself into my studies and worked part-time jobs to support myself. That's where I met Jack, 31M. He was a customer at the cafe where I worked, always leaving big tips and stopping to chat. We started dating in my sophomore year. Jack came from a stable, middle-class family. At first, I was embarrassed to tell him about my background. But when I finally opened up, he was incredibly understanding. He helped me work through a lot of my childhood trauma and showed me what a healthy relationship looks like. Meanwhile, things with Emma got worse. She'd call me at odd hours, asking for money. Once she showed up at my dorm, high out of her mind, causing a scene that almost got me kicked out of housing. I had to distance myself to focus on my education, but the guilt ate at me constantly. After graduation, Jack and I got married and started building the stable home I'd always dreamed of. We now have 2 beautiful kids, Zoe, 5F, and Tyler, 3M. I have a good job in marketing, and Jack runs his own small business. We have a cozy house in a safe neighborhood, with a fridge that's always full. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. But Emma's addiction spiraled further out of control. She'd steal from our parents, our relatives, anyone she could. I'd get calls about her being arrested or in the hospital. I tried to help by paying for rehab twice, but she always relapsed within weeks. The last straw was 3 years ago. Emma showed up at my house unexpectedly, clearly high, with a sketchy-looking guy she introduced as her friend. While I was distracted getting the kids a snack, they tried to steal my laptop and some jewelry. If Jack hadn't come home early from work and caught them, who knows what else they would have taken. I had to call the police. Watching them put Emma in handcuffs broke my heart, but I knew I had to protect my family. After that incident, I cut contact completely. I changed my number and blocked Emma on social media. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I had to put my kids' safety first. I mourned the loss of my sister, the person she used to be before drugs took over. Last week, out of the blue, Emma called me from a new number. She was crying, saying she's 6 months clean and has nowhere to go. Apparently, she got evicted from her apartment and lost her job at a gas station. She begged me to let her stay with us just for a little while until she gets back on her feet. Part of me wants to help her. Despite everything, she's still my sister. I remember the brave girl who protected me from our parents' fights, who made sure I always had something to eat even if it meant she went hungry. I miss the person she used to be, before the drugs took over. But I'm terrified of letting her addiction back into my life. What if she relapses? What if she steals again? My kids barely know her, Zoe has only met her once, and Tyler's never even seen her in person. How can I bring that uncertainty into their lives? I've worked so hard to create a stable, loving home for my family. The thought of jeopardizing that terrifies me. But then I think about Emma out on the streets, alone and desperate, and my heart breaks all over again. Jack says it's ultimately my decision, but I can tell he's wary. He's seen how much Emma's actions have hurt me over the years. He's worried about the kids, about the potential impact on our marriage. My in-laws think I'm crazy for even considering it. They say I need to protect my children above all else. I told Emma I'd think about it, but I honestly don't know what to do. Am I a terrible sister if I say no? How can I help her without risking everything I've built? The guilt is overwhelming, but so is the fear. Some additional background: our parents are still alive, but they're in no position to help. Dad's been in and out of jail for drug-related offenses, and Mom's in a nursing home with early-onset dementia, likely caused by years of substance abuse. They burned bridges with most of our extended family years ago. I feel like I'm the only one left who might be able to help Emma. But I'm also the one with the most to lose. How do I balance my responsibility to my sister with my duty to protect my children? How can I help her without enabling her addiction? I'm so torn and could really use some outside perspectives. Has anyone else been in a similar situation? How do you help an addict without sacrificing your own well-being? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update 1. Thank you all for your advice and support on my last post. The outpouring of responses, both from people who've been in similar situations and those offering outside perspectives, has been overwhelming. I've spent the last couple of weeks processing everything and wanted to give an update on the situation with my sister Emma. After a lot of soul-searching and many long talks with Jack, I decided I couldn't let Emma stay with us. The risk to my family felt too high, especially given her history of theft and erratic behavior. It was an agonizing decision, but ultimately, I had to prioritize my children's safety and the stability we've worked so hard to create. I called Emma to explain my decision. I told her I love her and want to support her recovery, but having her in our home isn't an option right now. I tried to be gentle but firm, explaining that while I believe in her desire to change, I needed to see sustained sobriety and stability before I could consider integrating her back into our lives. Emma didn't take it well. She accused me of abandoning her, saying I was selfish and heartless for not helping family. She brought up all the times she protected me as kids, saying I owed her this. She said if I really loved her, I'd give her a chance. It was painful to hear, but I stood my ground. I did offer alternatives. I said I'd help her find a shelter and look into job training programs. I even offered to pay the deposit on an apartment once she found steady work. But Emma refused, saying if I really cared, I'd let her stay with us. She hung up on me, and I was left feeling guilty and conflicted. A few days later, my phone exploded with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Turns out Emma had gone on a Facebook rant, twisting the story to make herself look like a victim. She painted a picture of herself as a recovered addict who just needed a little help to get back on her feet, conveniently leaving out her history of theft and relapses. Suddenly, distant aunts and cousins were messaging me, saying I should be ashamed for not helping my sister. Even my parents, who Emma had stolen from countless times, were guilt-tripping me. It was surreal to be labeled the bad guy for trying to protect my family. Jack was furious at how Emma was manipulating the situation. He wanted to post our side of the story, but I worried that would just escalate things. Instead, I decided to reach out privately to a few key family members to explain the full situation. Some understood, others still thought I was being cruel. Then, last weekend, things took a turn for the worse. We had taken the kids to the park and stopped for groceries on the way home. As we pulled into our driveway, I saw someone sitting on our front porch. My heart sank as I realized it was Emma. She looked terrible, thin and gaunt, her clothes dirty and hanging off her. As soon as she saw us, she stood up and started yelling, demanding to be let in. It was clear she was high, her eyes wild and unfocused. I asked Jack to take the kids to our neighbor's house while I dealt with Emma. As soon as the car pulled away, Emma's demeanor changed. She started crying, begging me to help her. When that didn't work, she switched to threats, saying if I didn't help her, she'd tell my kids what kind of person their mom really is. I was shaking, but I held my ground. I told Emma she needed to leave or I'd call the police. She screamed that I was dead to her, that I was no better than our parents, and that she hoped I'd rot in hell. Then she stormed off down the street. I broke down as soon as she was out of sight. Jack found me crying on the porch when he got back. He held me while I sobbed, alternating between guilt and anger and fear. Now I'm a mess. I feel horrible for turning Emma away, especially seeing how desperate she is. What if this was her rock bottom and I missed the chance to help? But I'm also angry at how she's trying to manipulate me and turn our family against us. And I'm terrified of what she might do next. Jack has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He reminded me that I've tried to help Emma many times before, and that I need to prioritize our kids' safety. He suggested changing our locks and getting security cameras, which we're going to do this week. I'm struggling with how to handle the family fallout. Do I try to explain my side to everyone or just ignore it? And how do I move forward knowing Emma is out there, angry and desperate? I'm worried about what she might do next. I'm also not sure how to explain this to Zoe and Tyler. They're young but they picked up that something is wrong. Zoe asked why Aunt Emma was yelling, and Tyler's been extra clingy since it happened. How do I help them understand why they can't see their aunt without scaring them? This whole situation has brought up so many old wounds and feelings. I'm trying to stay strong for my family, but inside I'm a wreck. I keep having nightmares about finding Emma overdosed like I did when we were teenagers. Then I wake up feeling guilty for not helping her, only to remember why I had to make this choice. I know logically that I'm doing the right thing by protecting my kids, but emotionally I'm torn apart. How do I reconcile my love for my sister with my need to keep my family safe? How do I move forward from here? Any advice on how to handle this situation would be really appreciated. How do I stay firm in my boundaries while still leaving the door open for Emma if she truly gets clean? And how do I start to heal from all of this? Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone again for their support and advice. It's really helped me navigate this difficult situation. After Emma showed up at our house, we took several security measures. We installed cameras, changed our locks, and gave photos of Emma to Zoe and Tyler's schools with instructions not to let her pick them up. It felt extreme, but I needed to know my family was safe. For a few weeks, things were quiet. No calls from Emma, no more social media drama. I was starting to relax a bit when I got a call from the local police department. Emma had been arrested for possession and petty theft. She gave them my number as her emergency contact. The officer asked if I'd be willing to post her bail. I was torn. Part of me thought maybe this would be her wake-up call, that helping her now could set her on the right path. But then I remembered all the advice about enabling, and how Emma needs to face the consequences of her actions to truly hit rock bottom. After talking it over with Jack, I told the officer I couldn't help. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I cried for hours after, feeling like I'd abandoned her. Jack reminded me that I was doing the right thing, but it still felt awful. A week later, I got a letter from Emma in jail. Seeing her handwriting, steadier than it had been in years, brought back a flood of memories. She apologized for showing up at our house and for the Facebook drama. She said being arrested was a wake-up call and she wanted to get clean for real this time. She asked if I'd visit her in jail. I was hesitant, but Jack encouraged me to go. He said it was a safe way to talk to her without risking our home. So I went. Seeing Emma in that visiting room was surreal. She looked healthier than she had in years. I guess being locked up forced her to detox. We talked for an hour. She cried, saying she was ashamed of how she'd acted. She talked about wanting to change but not knowing how. I told her I loved her but couldn't risk having her in our lives until she was stable. I said I'd support her recovery from a distance, letters, phone calls, maybe visits if she stayed clean. But she couldn't come to our house or see the kids until she proved she was better. Emma seemed to accept this. She asked about Zoe and Tyler, and cried when I showed her a recent photo. She said she wanted to be the aunt they deserved. It reminded me of the protective big sister she used to be, before the drugs took over. After the visit, I felt cautiously hopeful. Emma seemed sincere about wanting to change. But I've been burned before, so I'm staying guarded. Emma's still in jail awaiting trial. Her public defender thinks she might get mandated rehab instead of prison time because it's her first felony charge. Part of her sentence might include making amends to people she's hurt. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm still struggling with family fallout. Some relatives have come around after hearing about Emma's arrest, realizing I was right to be cautious. Others are still giving me the cold shoulder. I'm trying not to let it bother me, focusing on my immediate family instead. Zoe and Tyler are picking up that something's going on. We decided to tell them a simplified version, that Aunt Emma is sick and needs special doctors to get better, so we can't see her for a while. Zoe asked if it's like when her friend's dad went to the hospital for drinking too much. Kids are perceptive. I'm taking things day by day. I'm proud of myself for holding firm on my boundaries, even though it's been brutal. I'm cautiously optimistic about Emma but trying not to get my hopes up too much. I know recovery is a long road with lots of setbacks. For now, I'm focusing on my family and trying to heal from all this stress. Jack and I are looking into family counseling to help us all process this situation. I'm also considering finding a support group for families of addicts. I still have moments of doubt and guilt, but I'm trying to remind myself that I'm doing the best I can in a difficult situation. I'm hoping that by maintaining boundaries while still offering support, I can help Emma without endangering my family. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It's really helped me stay strong through this mess. Update 3. It's been about 6 months since my last update. I wanted to share how things have progressed with my sister Emma and our family situation. Emma completed her mandated rehab program and has been clean for 4 months now. She's living in a halfway house and attending regular NA meetings. We've been in contact through letters and weekly phone calls. It's been nice to talk to her without the chaos of addiction clouding everything. Last month, Emma asked if we could meet in person. I was nervous but agreed to meet at a coffee shop. Jack came with me for support. Seeing Emma clear-eyed and healthy was emotional. We talked for hours, about her recovery, her hopes for the future, and how she wants to make amends. Emma apologized again for her behavior, especially for showing up at our house and scaring the kids. She said she's working through the 12 steps and wants to make things right, but understands if I'm not ready to forgive her yet. She shared some of what she's learned in therapy about our childhood and how it affected us both. I told Emma I'm proud of her progress but need to see sustained change before I can fully trust her again. We agreed to keep in touch and maybe work towards supervised visits with the kids if she stays clean. It was a positive conversation, but I'm still cautious. Things aren't perfect. Emma still struggles with cravings and has had a couple close calls with relapse. But she's using her support system and coping strategies instead of giving in. It's a daily battle for her. She's started working part-time at a local diner and is taking classes at the community college. Small steps, but in the right direction. As for our extended family, most have come around now that they see Emma is genuinely trying to change. A few are still frosty towards me, but I'm learning to let that go. I know I did what was best for my kids. Zoe and Tyler ask about Aunt Emma sometimes. We've told them she's feeling better but still needs to focus on her health before she can visit. They seem to accept this, though Zoe says she misses Emma's silly jokes. We've started letting them talk to her on the phone occasionally, which has been nice. Jack and I have been attending a support group for families of addicts. It's been helpful to connect with others who understand what we're going through. We've learned strategies for setting boundaries and supporting recovery without enabling. I'm still working on my own issues. Years of stress and trauma don't disappear overnight. I've started journaling and taking a yoga class to help manage my anxiety. Jack and I are also in couples counseling to work through some of the strain this situation has put on our marriage. Last week, Emma asked if she could come to Zoe's upcoming birthday party. I'm torn about it. On one hand, Emma's been doing well and it would mean a lot to her. On the other, I'm worried about disrupting Zoe's day if things go badly. Jack thinks we should give it a try, with clear boundaries set beforehand. I haven't decided yet. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future, but I'm also protecting my heart. I know recovery isn't linear and there might be setbacks. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time and keeping firm boundaries while still offering Emma support from a distance. This whole experience has taught me a lot about setting boundaries, the complexities of addiction, and the importance of protecting my own mental health. It's been a difficult journey, but I feel stronger for having gone through it. There are still tough days. Sometimes I look at my kids and feel overwhelmed by the need to protect them. Other times I remember the sister who used to protect me, and I ache for what we've lost. But I'm learning to balance these feelings, to hope for the best while preparing for setbacks. Emma's birthday is coming up next month. I'm thinking of inviting her over for dinner, just her, me, and Jack, after the kids are in bed. It feels like a big step, but maybe it's time. We'll see how things go. Thank you all for your support throughout this process. It's meant more than you know. If anyone has advice about reintroducing a recovering addict to kids, I'd appreciate it. Or just general thoughts on how I'm handling things. This journey is far from over, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction.